Hello boys and girls, welcome to a new Patreon mixing tutorial late at night, because that's when I got time to do them. The content does not change quality though, and here you go, let's check out my tones on this cover of Lily and the Moon. These are such fun and tricky riffs, especially the breakdown one. Anyways, there's loads of cool stuff in this mix, so let's begin. As usual, I will turn off all master bus processing and explain it at the end, because at the end is when I put it on when I'm mixing. This drum sound is one I've explained already, and it consists of modern and massive shells and P4 cymbals, both sample libraries by GGD. P4 cymbals, modern and massive shells, and the kick and snare are reinforced with Andrew Wade drum shots by Drumforge. So the kick from GGD will play together with a one shot, a very thick one shot, and both together they'll sound like this. Oh yes, same thing as the snare. What you're hearing there is the modern and massive snare together with the Andrew Wade sledge snare. And both together, you get a proper cannon of a snare. So to watch the full rundown on this drum sound, you can go to the Wage War Alive mixing tutorial. That's where I describe every plugin on the drum sound. After watching that, all you need to know is that I have changed the snare. So I don't know what the original snare was. It was one of these very thick, I think it was this one, the Paduk snare, which sounds like this. Nice and low. But the drum sound on the original was a little bit higher tuned. This sounds cool, but way too low. This high tuned Gretsch bell brass sounds like this. Way sharper, but the one shot gives it the thickness that it needs for this part, for example. But changing it to this snare made this part make a lot more sense. Especially this one. So that's something cool you can try out. The best way to change the character of the entire kit is to just play with your snare sample. The snare is the heart of the drum kit, and higher tune ones and lower tune ones will change everything. So yes, this is the Wage War Alive drum sound with the high tuned Gretsch bell brass snare. Let's talk about this bass tone. Nice. What's a cooler part? This one. So this is the DI. And today we're using STL Wool Putney. For the bass tone, we're going for the preset Carved Distortion. I think I gave it a little bit more treble. I like it. Let's fix what could be better about it. Firstly, it's very thick in the low end, and we're gonna handle that with some filters. So we're going to filter all the way up to 40 hertz, not all the way up, but up to 40 hertz to get rid of subs And we're also going to get rid of some fizz with the 7.5K hertz filter. And we're going to increase the low end that we want. There's a lot of low end in this 200 hertz region we'll cut later, and I'll tell you all about it. But first we're going to boost the low end we like, which is on this 56 region. Check it out. Doesn't that sound beautiful and nice? But if I were to boost the 200 one, those frequencies are going to destroy my mix. After this, I'm going to try to compress it a little bit for evenness. This very simple compressor, it just has input and output, so you can adjust how much gain reduction you do. This is emulating an 1176 compressor. Wait, are you shitting me? I had this at 0% mix, so the compressor is off. That is a good educational moment. Sometimes you think stuff is there and it's not doing anything. This EQ though is doing a whole lot. So that's another 40 hertz filter to get rid of subs. But these cuts, so 380 and 200, save the whole mix from the muddiness of this bass tone. Hopefully you could hear as I boosted them how much muddier the bass tone was. So check this out. Removing the junk almost makes it sound deeper. So always be aware of that. There's also a little harshness at 2.7K. Goodbye. And then you know what I like, a limiter. The limiter is basically telling the bass that if you go higher than this, I will distort you so that you don't go higher than that. And that's good to keep dynamic consistency. You can see the hardest pick attacks getting eaten at. That is bass tone. Playing nicely with the kick drum, what I like to hear balancing bass and drums is that the bass is always nice and constant. And you can hear the grind. And then the kick should be just a little bit louder than the bass in terms of subs. Here it's actually a lot louder, but I'm okay with it. So guitar tone. Pretty old strings into STL Will Putney once again. So the starting point for this tone was the Evergreen preset because of the cabinet. Very unique sound in it. Check it out. Very mid-rangey, very cool, but it is very dark, so we're going to brighten it up here on this EQ with 2.5 decibels at 9K and 4.5 decibels on a shelf at 4K. So, oops. Nice and bright. An emulation of that same EQ to basically do the same thing. Filters, low end beneath 90 hertz is annoying subs, and high end above 10K is just fizz, we can filter out. And another boost, this time at 10K, just 1.5 to make it a bit brighter. Not too much. This guy is here, very important to control the resonances. So on the 3K region, you get a load of this. That harshness, this plugin cuts that. give it just a little bit. Here it was actually 2 decibels, which is a considerable amount. Nice and soft. It's cool. It's like a lazy EQ. I could do it by hand, but this guy gets it. Then I like to compress guitars. Dynamic consistency once again. Very important for impact. Let's try this. You can see how those tap notes, some are louder than the others. This helps it all be one nice block of sound. And then this final EQ, oh, there's a cool trick in here. So another filter at 80, make sure there's no sub, and another one at 10K to make sure there's no fizz. Just a little notch there for a harsh frequency. And here's a cool one. To reduce low end on palm muted notes, there's an band on this EQ. You can turn any band into a compressor. So this 260 region, if I solo it, it's the very low honky palm mute region. Not very low, but low mid. And I just tell the plugin, hey, if this becomes too loud, please turn it down. So hopefully you can hear it thins the guitars a little bit, and it gives us a nice balance. Also, there's pitch shifting in this song, which is automated. It's these little stomp pedals. I like to use this one by Waves because I would usually what I do is I pitch down the DI in Reaper. So I select the clips, and on pitch adjust, I would just do -3 and hit apply. But I can't play with that live because I can only do it on audio clips. So I do it with a little pitcher pedal. And I automate it on and off for certain sections. Like you can see here, off, on, off, on, off, on. So that's the way I automate pitch shifting. For tracking, is I use a little pedal emulation, but I forgot to just turn this off and actually tune down the DIs, which is what I like to do most. The rhythms in this song have a lo-fi tone lots of the time. This consists of the exact same plugin chain, but in the EQ for the amp, you're going to jack up the filters. So the low end filter as high as it goes, 330 gets you that radio low end, very non-existent, and the high filter all the way down to 5.6 gets you a resonant cut too, and this EQ gives a full lo-fi sound. Not too hard. My usual wet lead. Very easy to obtain. The distortion is basically the same, so all I did was change the cabinet so that wasn't the same as the rhythm sound, so it could stand out. Switched it to cabinet 1. Then it's just a reverb at 100% mix. 10-second decay sounds about right. And then you got to remove a lot of low end. Hopefully you hear how when I took off the cut, you could hear a lot of low rumble. That's useless and can destroy your mix when all you want is a nice lead. So here's a low cut at 400 Hertz and the reinforcement of that with an EQ after at 300 again. And if you pay close attention, you will hear even more rumble being reduced, and you can see it here. So be careful about the rumble in these leads. This guy. Middle pickup action. SS11X has my favorite clean tone of all time on the stock setting, so stock cabinet. It's just a little bit too bassy for my taste. Bright reverb right there. And this guy makes the whole tone. So this is a dotted eighth note delay. You don't need Waves H delay, all you need is a delay, and the delay should be a dotted eighth note, because you get this rhythmic action going on. EQ to make it thinner in the low end, just a filter, 250, and a little cut at 400. And there's a very harsh thing in my pickups, I think, at 2.7. High filter, 8K, not really anything necessary, actually. This 30 clean. Same thing, but you switch to the crunch patch. Again, taking off a load of bass, same delay, same EQ. And then I like a limiter on these ones to make sure that the distorted peaks aren't too loud. Once again, I just give it a threshold and it doesn't let anything get past. Little choir thing. So, this choir is straight out of Expand 2. This is the A choir, but that is very epic. And I'm gonna filter it. Wow, how did you do that, João? Well, aggressive filtering. So, filter at 500 with a steep slope, 24 decibels per octave, and a high-end filter at 5K, 24 decibels per octave. Voila. Bit of reverb. So 4 seconds, 35% mix. Big low cut too. The reverb is just for this small tail, really. You got yourself a choir sound. Oh, I forgot to talk about the scratch before the breakdown. This is one of the more awesome effects I've ever recreated. It's so satisfying. So the way I got it is I recorded a scratch on the guitar. I pitch shift it down the same way as the rest of the guitars are. Makes it fit. Makes it lower. Logically. Distortion. Same distortion as the rhythms. But I turn on the reverb pedal. Not only for the reverb on the first hit, but for the reverb on the delays, which we'll check out in a bit. You gotta make it lo-fi. You gotta reduce a lot of the highs. So there's a low pass at 2000. Big difference. And here for the delay, oh my god. The only thing important is that it's gotta be stereo. Ping pong, quarter notes, and then you gotta automate the feedback. So the feedback has to be more than 100 so that the repeats actually get louder as this happens. Check it out. And then I turn it back down to 0. That's how you get this effect, which is very, very, very cool. Then that's a mix. After that, these are my usual explosions. Today I EQ'd some mid-range out of them. You can see they're a bit honky. I took that off to make them deeper. The guitars are very honky and the bass is very honky too. It's not my usual bus glue bass, which is very scooped. This is a very fat one. And bass is already occupying a lot of that region. And here's how I made this cool loop. Firstly, I got a hi-hat sample and placed it where it is on the original. So this is the original, and yes, I transcribed every hi-hat. But to make it sound more like the original, we had to distort them hard. So this is the distortion plugin in Reaper. I just maxed it out, turned down the volume, and then I had to filter a lot of low end because they became very buzzy, as you can tell. Nice. 3000 hertz high pass. I think that's a record on that channel. But it does fit. It's terrible how this song is about how he's gonna miss his old dog when she's gone. And it slaps. So there you go. Yep. That is the mix, guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on Patreon. Be sure to get up with the content, watch all the mixing tutorials that your support covers access to, and thank you very much. See you in the next one.